What seems like a lifetime ago now, back when true arcade amusement centres still existed, games developers were falling over themselves to acquire licenses to port popular coin-ops from the seaside to the home micros and consoles. It wasn't often that the flow of pixelated creativity transpired vice versa, which is why the proposal to introduce the Amiga's answer to Sonic the Hedgehog to a stand-up cabinet in 1993 was met with such anticipation. First pitched in September 1992 at the ECTS, a month before the inaugural Amiga release, Bellfruit Manufacturing and Gremlin hashed out a deal that would see the former cash till company unleash 2,000 customised cabinets featuring an enhanced iteration of the forthcoming chart-storming Ninja from the Nth Dimension. That's Zool, for all none of you who are still wondering who the enigmatic upstart might be. BFM, who miraculously remain a going concern today, having been operating in the amusements industry since 1963, commissioned games development studio Attention to Detail to take charge of the project, with minimal involvement from Gremlin. Zool the coin-op was to encompass two-player alternating gameplay and 132-bit levels, more than 4 times that of the original, controlled via 3 custom chips in readiness for an ETA of summer 1993. ATD, comprising Chris Gibbs, Fred Gill, Martin Green, John Steele and Jim Torgerson, were practically veterans by this stage, having formed in September 1988, subsequent to completing their studies at Birmingham University. Emanating from a humble residential front room, the close-knit outfit flourished into a major studio employing 75 people, eventually operating from slightly more capacious converted barns in Hatton, Warwickshire, England. As a team, their first gig would entail developing the SDK for the Conix multi-system, codenamed Slipstream. Initially, this was proposed as an extension of their joystick peripherals range, set to encompass a dashboard-style controller with optional flight yoke, motorcycle handlebars, or a steering wheel attachment. Nevertheless, with Atari Jaguar designers Flare Technology on board, working in conjunction with ATD, the proposal soon evolved into a fully fledged games console, envisioned to compete with more expensive 16-bit computers at half the financial outlay. Before the Conix multi-system was axed, supplemental to the SDK, ADT were implicated in producing its promotional demos along with a promising 3D Wipeout-style title for the platform. It would have facilitated simultaneous 2-player action by linking 2 KMS consoles together, and also supported the Conix Power Chair. Their Tunnels of Doom concept, originally destined for release in April 1990, was sold to Mirasoft. They of course sunk without a trace before it could be liberated, as did their owner, Robert Maxwell. Several years passed before ATD entered into an agreement to collaborate with Bellfruit Manufacturing, best known for their quiz Coin-Op Creations. BFM proceeded to nurture the relationship by backing ATD's patented raster speed video circuit board technology, with a view to implementing it in arcade cabinets such as A Question of Sport, Every Second Counts, Inquisitor, Quiz Vaders and Treble Top. In 1994, speaking of the enterprise he co-founded, Martin Green described ATD as a technology company working in games development, hardware design and Windows business software. We wrote more for the Atari Jaguar and are working on a number of new products for Jaguar and other new systems. Casting a sweeping torchbeam over the progressive connection to BFM, he went on to explain, "A few years back, we decided that overplotting was a complete waste of time, as DRAM bandwidth was so lousy. So in conjunction with a UK arcade machine company, Bellfruit Manufacturing, we designed a system which used sorting techniques to eliminate overplotting. This technology is being used in the arcade versions of Zool and Rise of the Robots. By the way, ATD and BFM are looking for more games to port to the arcade using the technology. At the moment, the system is primarily aimed at 2D. 3D is being tackled by the big boys, so we've kept away." Between 1988, their acquisition by Jeff Brown Holdings in January 1997, who would go on to become Kaboom Studios, and their ultimate liquidation in August 2003, ATD developed games for systems ranging from the Amstrad, Commodore 64, Spectrum, Amiga, Atari ST and Mac, through to the Dreamcast, PlayStation 2, Windows and the GameCube. Some of their most notable titles include Cybermorph, the first Atari Jaguar game, Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis, the action game, Battlefield 2, Modern Combat, Blast Chamber, Night Shift, Super Sprint and Roll Cage 1 and 2. Aside from developing LEGO Racers 2 in 2001 for the PlayStation 2 and Windows, ATD designed a coinciding physical interpretation of sorts to entertain the guests at Legoland in Windsor. Meanwhile, back to the topic in hand, specifications and photographs of the Zool coin-op prototype were unveiled to the press, and the cabinet was even showcased on Bad Influence, as demonstrated by an excitably animated Andy Crane.
Now before we go, the best computer and console games are often based on arcade versions. But this is a prototype of a new game out this summer, which was so popular on the Amiga, they're putting it into the arcades. You'll probably recognise it as Zool, a ninja of the nth dimension, and as you'll see, the character is bigger, faster, and it's got new levels as well.
Nonetheless, the proposed rollout doesn't appear to have materialised, probably due to the unforeseen bankruptcy of the publisher UPL in March 1992. Dating back to the early 80s, Universal Playland's games development arm was based in Tokyo, where they produced titles primarily for the arcade. There were also the MSX, NES, SNES, PC Engine and Atomic RoboKit for various systems, including the Amiga. Whilst UPL have become intrinsically linked with vertically scrolling shoot-'em-ups, their portfolio extended to titles spanning multifarious genres. What is thought to have sounded the death knell for UPL was diversification into the pachinko machine business, a Japanese variant of pinball that revolves around gambling with rented balls. These serve as the bounty as well as the means of winning them. That is, once exchanged for tokens converted to cash away from the parlour, in order to shimmy around Japan's, in inverted commas, strict gambling laws, which forbid the unification to monetary gain. From the ashes of UPL, Scarab was born in May 1992, formed by some of its then unemployed staff, including Satomo Fujisawa. In May 2005, Scarab was rebranded as Feel Plus Inc., who was subsequently absorbed by AQ Interactive and Livewire in 2010, and then by Marvelous Entertainment a year later. Thankfully, the latter are still breathing, or this could take all night. Very little is known about the Zool PCB today, and no incidences of the system have been recorded at the collector's database arcadeadventure.com. Alas, since only one person there has registered an interest in tracking one down, the trail has seemingly run ice cold. Even the ROM is missing in action, never having been done for use in MAME. To discover why, out in the wild, it's such an elusive beast, I quizzed one of ATD's key developers, Martin Green. While happy to answer my questions as best he could, unfortunately, Martin was obliged to qualify his answers with, "Not sure how much help I can be. Zool wasn't my thing, really." "How did you first get involved with Belfruit?" I asked. If I remember correctly, which I may not, they rang us up to get us to help them with some new video games they were trying to launch. It may just have been the graphics in the first place. We did a few projects for them before I pitched Raster Speed to them. How close to completion was your coin-op conversion of Zool? Sorry, I don't remember. I was mostly on the hardware and system software side for Raster Speed, not the games. Were any finished cabinets ever shipped to the amusement arcades? Sorry, I don't remember. I suspect not. How did it differ to the original Amiga version? Sorry, too much time has passed. How many of the ATD team worked on the port, and who did what? We had about 25 people at that point, and I can't remember who did it. I was running the Raster Speed team. Do you know what happened to the ROM? Is it ever likely to surface? Sorry, don't know. How did the bankruptcy of the publisher Universal Playland affect the project? Did you attempt to find a substitute publisher? Sorry, no info. Undeterred, I next spoke to Fred Gill, who suggested tracking down Jim Torgerson, whose specialty at ATD was programming. Regrettably for both of us, he lost touch with him when Jim left the company in 1997, so couldn't point me in the right direction. When my own detective work hit a brick wall, having approached several other former ATD members to dig for clues, I finally threw in the towel. So here's where the story ends. If anyone out there can provide the missing pieces of the puzzle, or is in contact with anyone who worked on the Zool cabinet, I'd love to hear from you. To be continued.